OTB AM.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
7:30 on this Friday morning. You're very welcome along to OTB AM, and we are officially in the Stephen Kenny era. We should have really seen a 1-1 draw coming. Nobody actually predicted that on air yesterday, despite all of us really deep down knowing that there was a chance of a 1-1 draw happening in Sofia last night. Kenny Cunningham and Matt Holland will be with us throughout the morning to parse through those 90 minutes in Bulgaria last night. Plenty more besides that as well, including Alan Quinlan's final breakdown of the Pro 14 semi-finals. We are live with you right the way through until 10 o'clock this morning here on OTB AM. You can give us a message at Off the Ball on Twitter. You can text us on our WhatsApp number, which is 0879 180 180. That's 0879 180 180. We'd love to hear your opinions, especially on the football from last night. Adrian and myself will be up with winners and losers from last night's game at 8 o'clock. Before that, here's some of yesterday's Golf Weekly.
And this is where privacy with a capital P comes into it. I don't know the nature of the pregnancy. Has it been smooth sailing or difficult? And you wish them well and everything. And obviously with COVID, it's probably a scary time to be pregnant. I don't know to what extent it should have affected his form. It's definitely a happy situation in the main. You should still be able to practice 3, 4, 5 hours a day. So his mind may be elsewhere. I'm not sure it totally explains the lack of form, I would say. Plenty of players do very well when they're expecting children, but I'm sure it's distracting.
He played very well on the Thursday and Friday. Very well.
Which suggests, the fact that there was an imminent birth didn't affect his game on those days. So, I still think there's just issues with his game generally, which he needs to sort out.
I did like, though, very much, and it's refreshing to hear, as Nathan, he's absolutely right. This is one of the global superstars of a sport and the biggest Irish star there is in his comments when once he acknowledged after Steve, I think it was Steve Sands said it first, or publicly, he goes, no, I've been, I've told friends, I've told obviously family, people around, but didn't really feel it was one of those things that I had to announce. And there was something so just refreshingly brilliant about it. Is that like simply because he is one of the big sports stars, we don't own that part of his life that is his. And there's something lovely about that. And the smile with which he said to me this is, again, a reminder of a player who has fought for the last 11 years to strike that balance between public Rory and keep that healthy side of your life with your friends, your family, and anyone you want to share it with, but that it doesn't belong to everybody else. So I just thought, I have to say, it is a good news story, but I thought even the manner in which it was dealt with was, again, another brilliant bit of news as well.
That's lovely. Like, in a way, he's grown up in front of us all, hasn't he? So you do feel very invested in him. So, it's a beautiful thing, and hopefully he really enjoys it. And Bryson DeChambeau, by the way, was talking to Andrew Landry, who revealed that DeChambeau, and this is absolutely a theory I have, by the way. I've been felt this way for a long time. He has apparently looked into it, DeChambeau, and the win percentage for new fathers is abnormally high. It's off the charts. So, Danny Willett, for instance, won the Masters 11 days after the birth of his child. Apparently, new fathers are dangerous. They're just, they're high on life. They're feeling good.
I don't think, and this is again Bryson DeChambeau getting credit for something he doesn't deserve any credit for. Like, this is a well-known factor. Keith Elliott, who is the betting guru, has been writing about this for years and has all the statistics to back up. Nappy factor, as it's called.
Yeah.
That golfers who emerge back out on tour after the birth of a child tend to do very, very well. So it'll be interesting to see if this week Rory, presuming he is going to play, obviously the baby was born on Monday, so incredible how many golfers' babies are born on Mondays. Just works out quite nicely. And you're free to go at the week. And it's worked out quite nicely this week in particular, obviously, because he isn't playing till Friday and it goes on until Monday. But 15 million quid, I presume he's going to turn up. And I think, get your money on, not just this week, but also for the US Open. I don't know, Peter, if you played quite quickly after having a child, and whether it's that enormous sense of relief that everything that McIlroy's spoken about in the opposite way, and distraction that all of a sudden there's a weight off your shoulders. Because I would have often thought it was almost the opposite, that the guilt of having to leave your child 3-4 days after the baby is born might get on top of you. But actually, it seems to give people some sort of freedom.
No, I was completely the opposite, Nathan. I was a shocker. I played absolute rubbish. unfortunately, the birth of our first child, which was Jessica, it was a difficult birth, and let's put it that way. And mummy and baby were in hospital for a little bit of time afterwards. So, no, I remember going to the Dunlop Phoenix in Japan, an 80-man field, and I missed a cut.
Ugh.
And myself and I can remember to this day, Bubba Watson missing the cut together and hitting balls in the range on the Saturday and Sunday, waiting for the flight back.
Oh.
And like, it was a shocker to miss the cut in the Dunlop Phoenix. Like, you know, I was the Strixon player, representative from Ireland or whatever.
Did you chat much to Bubba?
No, but I was amazed at the way he hit it at that stage. So they were the very, very early days of Bubba Watson.
Mm.
So, no, I unfortunately, I'm the opposite. Played rubbish after the baby factor.
How old is Jessica now, Peter?
15.
Wow.
Yeah. Time flies.
That was the early days of Bubba. I wonder, did people ever try and get in his ear and change the way he played?
I would have said they probably did at the very start. Looked at him and said, look, you're never going to make it. Because I remember watching him then and I thought, wow, this guy's, you know what I mean, useless. You know, the way he swung it, or the way he hit the ball. There was no kind of finesse about it. It was just like gouge it out there. But there you go. Masters winner, multiple winner on tour. How wrong can you be?
Quite wrong. So, well, let's have a glance backwards then, because there's loads to discuss. So BMW, Olympia Fields, which was set up like a US Open. Ram opened with a 75, by the way, and went on to win, which doesn't happen very often. They definitely took the handbrake off a touch on the Sunday and allowed players go low. I think Ram had a 64 on the Sunday. And that was with picking up his ball and not putting in the marker, which I've never actually, even at amateur level, seen happen. It was, it was an extraordinary thing. And like, he just couldn't believe he had done it. But geez, what a finish. This whole tournament was, I think we can safely say, Fionn, pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was one of the best. I mean, it's just a weird thing. Ever since golf has returned, I thought the Colin Morikawa winning the PGA was awesome. So you're thinking, oh, nothing's going to better that this year. Just that finale, the battle with DJ, etc. And sure enough, it's like, you know, you have the BMWs going, hold my beer, you know, and sure enough, as you said, you've got this incredible finale. And a few weeks ago, I have to hold my hand up and said, I just mused on, no doubt that John Ram was a brilliant, brilliant player, but did he have Hall of Fame in him in the way that I thought, or I think that Justin Thomas does? And I have to say, this weekend showed not just that he is a brilliant finisher and to, as you said, close out with a 66 and a 64 and, I mean, holding that one on the first playoff hole, but it's just the way he played. And to give you, he was finished top 15 in the field, off the tee, approaches, around the greens, and putting. Like top 15 in all the key stats.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the mark of greatness. And it's not just that he sank like one of the best putts you'll see for many a year to win it, because it could have easily been DJ, like easily. Like DJ's on such a hot streak, and DJ did nothing wrong. But for when you actually break it down and say, oh, was Ram lucky? Well, I mean, no, he had a bit of luck on the playoff hole, but he went low. He posted a score that I'm sure we're going to talk about DJ's brilliance in just a second as well. But is when you look at those statistics and the ability on one of the hardest, and also as well, it's a second win because he won Memorial, which was also set up like an incredibly tough course. So Ram shows his best on the courses that are set up to test your absolute best. And you can't say more than that. Like, it was just, what an amazing performance. And as like, I'm sure everybody agrees, like, I was riveted. So much so that I was annoyed at 1 o'clock in the morning, like with toothpicks holding my eyes open, going, please bring this to an end, please. And I just couldn't leave it alone. And my poor wife is like going, what are you doing? I'm like, shh, I'm watching the golf.
So. It does really emphasise the extent to which Nathan Ram has to be a big, big favourite for a US Open very shortly. You know, I mean, as Fionn says, he's built for these courses. In fairness to DJ, as has often been the case, and we've often pointed out, he has lost tournaments. He didn't lose this tournament. I mean, it was a phenomenal effort. Even as he took like 5 minutes over that 40-plus footer putt, I was thinking, come on, like, you're not going to hold it. Just roll it down there. Let us all get to bed. I actually think his putt was tougher than Ram's. His broke about 3 or 4 times.
And his probably had more pressure on it in a strange way, because he needed to get that to get himself into a playoff. Whereas Ram, obviously, is probably expecting he's going to run it up close and he's going to go on to the second playoff hole and maybe he'll take it there. So, like, Dustin Johnson did absolutely nothing wrong yet. And we can't criticise him. I know we've questioned at times how he responds to pressure, positively and negatively. I think this time he was just beaten by brilliance, by absolute brilliance. Yeah. And whereas Ram can win on any course, and that's the one thing we now know, as Fionn touched on, where he's already won this year. He can win on links courses. How lucky we are that he's this dominant figure in the Irish Open, and hopefully when things get back to normal, it'll keep him coming back to Ireland every summer, because I think he has a personality that Irish people really attach to. But also he wins in Dubai. He wins everywhere and anywhere. And it does feel as though he is the next one to go and win a major championship. Lots of players have been in that position. Ricky Fowler was in that position for 5-6 years, and you sort of forget about Ricky. Like, the generations have moved on very quickly. Yeah. But Ram, everything about him I like. And this thing of he needs to change, he needs to somehow control his temperament if he wants to get to some sort of another level. No way. You want this. You want that little bit, and without getting too stereotypical, of that fiery Spanish Seve-esque attitude. You do not want to get that out of him at all. I don't care if he smashes a club every 5-6 tournaments. If it means that he can perform like that once every couple of months, you take it. And it was just brilliant. And geez, how good has golf been? How lucky have we been since it has returned? And I know Fionn touched on the PGA, and yeah, it had drama, but the regular season events, right from the start, when Daniel Berger, he won the first tournament back with Morikawa, misses the short one, to Morikawa and Justin Thomas playoff. Like, remember Justin Thomas put in that playoff? You thought you wouldn't see anything like it for the rest of the year. And then last Sunday night, you've got 2 of them. Better again. So the quality hasn't been diluted in any way by the lack of spectators. The only disappointment of the last 2 months is that Tiger and Rory haven't really figured. But there's such a depth of talent. I think for people who love golf, you don't mind. Maybe for the grander scheme of attracting the layman's attention, you want Tiger and Rory. But I think for those of us who will watch every Sunday night, the drama has just been insane.
Rory was much better, we should say, as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he played really well.
Yeah, he put himself right in there. Like, it was just, you kind of wondered how he would react when the news broke on Friday night. Again, getting back to distractions, would it be a weight off his shoulders and he'd really kick on over the weekend? Didn't happen for him, but there was enough there to suggest that it's not far away. And enough there, obviously, going to Eastlake, where he's won last year, has won twice, and heading into a brilliant stretch of the season, that he just needs something. You just feel one win and he's going to have that run of top tens again.
Yeah, I feel like he's getting closer for sure. I watched every shot of Tiger's final round. He was really good. Tiger's finished this tournament on 11 over. Honestly, I'm going to make what I call respectfully a Peter Lawrie-esque prediction, which means a good prediction. I'm telling there's something there with Woods. So there were 2 or 3 drives which, club gets stuck behind him and it goes a mile right, and he always has them in his locker. But the amount of good shots Woods hit, he was striping the ball. He was in a lot of good shots. The putter is a bit cold, and he misread a couple. But I was thinking, geez, around Augusta Greens, which he knows like the back of his hand, and he'll know the way every putt breaks, and he'll probably, he'll ramp up the putting practice, I would think, in advance of the Masters. Honestly, I mean, Peter, you can shoot me down as he departs with his 11 over, and we're not going to see him again. And I don't know enough about Wingfoot to make a prediction there. The last 2 Sundays, I've watched every shot he's hit. Tiger's playing secretly very, very well.
I think he's swinging the club well. I think he is striking the club ball well. His body language is atrocious, though. Do you not get it? Like, he's like a guy who is out there playing in a pro-am and doesn't want to be there. And that's what it comes across to me anyway. He seems to have, I don't know how you would describe it as, but a dislike to what he's doing. There's no happiness in the man at all. There's no jovial with his even playing partners, or with his caddy. There's nothing about him. Like when he came back, and won the Masters, there was a likable sense of Tiger Woods. There seemed to be more jovial. He would be chatting with people. He would be more approachable, even to commentators and to interviewers and stuff like that. Now he seems to be growling at anybody and everybody who is, anywhere even close to him. And that's what I don't like about Tiger Woods at this moment in time.
Did you see any of his post-round interviews? So, as you said, and Peter's right, like for a couple of years, and certainly around winning the Tour Championship and then the Masters, he seemed much more open. He was affable. And it's kind of weird. Like, I think Tiger fans are almost secretly, or maybe not so secretly, happy that he's gone back to be he did an amazing thing in the interview where he was asked like 3 basic questions and didn't answer any of them, but talked. So he was asked, like, it was like such a tee-up question. It was just like, how do you find the balance between rest and reps? You got to do reps, but you got to rest the body. And it was like, rather than just answer it, he goes, yeah, I think this is just a tough year, for everybody, with the pandemic. And you're like, what? That isn't the answer. And he seems to have retreated to kind of old Tiger, which was give him nothing, just you say the usual Pat thing. Now, the only clue he did give, because I was watching and I was going, oh, that putter. But he puts it down to that he was missing in the wrong spots. And so the putts he had were way tougher than they should have been. He should have been on different sides of the hole, etc. And that's what he put down as the biggest thing that he has to work on, is to find like the way to not miss in the wrong spot.
I think maybe we're overstating the demeanor thing. Like, there was a great picture of him congratulating Morikawa on his major win and making a point of going over to congratulate him. There were shots of him and McIlroy and I think it was Henne, who he works with now, having lunch, really relaxed, having a burger, all smiles. I would say, and Peter, you can testify to this, and we even can as rank bad amateurs, it's probably tough to be in great form as you're blowing yourself out of the tournament Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's really hard to be in super good form when you've kind of blown up. But what I've seen in the 2 Sundays is someone who's gone out maybe without the pressure and just said, I'm going to try and shoot a good round. And I think demeanor-wise, he's looked okay. I'd give him a bit of a pass when he's 8 over, 9 over on a Friday or on a Saturday, and he's been asked about reps or rest and all this stuff that, like, do we have to do my body is not what it was answer again? I wouldn't say he's gone back totally to where he was before his comeback, so to speak. I don't know what you're seeing, Nathan.
Like, he's still a competitor. Yeah. As you said, you see them photos of him relaxed, having lunch with Rory, which I don't know, did he do that 15 years ago? I don't think he did. I don't think after a disappointing round, he sits down. Well, obviously he didn't. He didn't sit down with Phil Mickelson for a coffee and Rory showing him some photos, maybe of, scans or something, and they're having he's got a nice little look in his face. I don't think that happened. But like, he's always going to be the competitor. He's never going to be happy not playing good golf. And still feels that he has a chance of winning major championships this year. He's probably one of the only ones who thinks he does on his current form. So as long as he's, I definitely didn't see this sort of snarling around the place and being rude. I just saw someone who looked very, very frustrated. And again, at times looked a bit like an old man. Yeah. Not quite struggling to pick up the tee, but definitely not moving as easily as he was at his best, say, 18 months ago. Yeah. So, go on.
Isn't that what Coulthard said about him, though? It's just observing him over the days, just going, yeah, his body, it's not quite that he's playing injured, but yeah, maybe that's just age. He's whatever he is, 44 now or whatever age he is. Can I just say, just on a note, I thought Andrew Coulthard was terrific on commentary. I thought his observations were brilliant. And there was one in particular where did you hear him? I don't know if any of you heard it, but he took a little cut at Matsuyama. So he observed something, and Ewan Murray, in fairness, goes, geez, Andrew, you really notice everything. Is that so when Matsuyama picks a ball out of the cup, he leans fully on his putter head. And so the putter head makes an indentation in the green, whereas other players kind of lean they don't put their full body weight, whereas Matsuyama does. And Coulthard just called it out. He goes, that's not good. No, you can't be doing that. You can't be leaving a mark on the green like that. Not cool. I just thought there was something, I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to pick on Matsuyama at all, but I just think that's what I would like out of my co-commentator, is to be able to see something and kind of say, well, both good and bad. I don't know. You didn't catch any of that?
I didn't catch that moment, no. But I do like him. I think he's very good. I mean, he gets very frustrated if it's a dog leg left and a player hits a fade into it. He's like, what are they doing? I think the stupidity. I think stupidity irks him, actually. I think he's got a kind of nice grumpiness when it comes to that. By the way, on Woods, so, I mean, we touched on this last Thursday when the Milwaukee Bucks situation was very fresh in the memory, and we were wondering what would we see from Woods, and we saw nothing. I mean, next to nothing. And I think we went a bit too easy on Woods even. It's such a colossal blank, Every sport is doing it, every league is doing it, and he is African Asian golfer and nothing. So it was interesting during the weekend off the ball. We had Dr. Harry Edwards on. This guy is like the doyen of sports activism, So he was the founder of the Olympic human rights movement in 1967, which culminated in John Smith and Tommy Carlos in Mexico 68. He was the real thinker behind that, and a big part of that. He's a consultant with the 49ers, so he was there when Kaepernick took the knee for the first time. He's an advisor to Kaepernick. And so he was with us on Wednesday, and he was talking about the various waves of activism. So he was saying the first wave of activism was a cyclist, a Major Taylor in 1896, who was just looking to be allowed to compete on American soil. And then, there was Jackie Robinson, and that was a wave. And then Carlos and John Smith and Muhammad Ali was another wave. He said Kaepernick was the fourth wave taking the knee. And he says, so significant was what we just saw last week. This is a fifth wave. This is new, And just in the midst, it hit me. Where's Tiger in all of this? So that was, you just listen to this guy's answer on Tiger.
It's never a universal response when it comes to sports people. I was curious if you've any insight into Tiger Woods, or if you'd spoken to Tiger Woods previously, because Milwaukee made their decision on the Wednesday night, and on Thursday morning, probably the greatest golfer in the history of the game, who just so happens to be African Asian and plays the current president's sport, and it is the sport of white America and the country clubs. I was interested to see, would he make any demonstration on Thursday? Might he take a knee? Might he even boycott the event, which was certainly not a career-defining event for him? And we have never heard much from Woods in that department, next to nothing. And he's now in his mid-40s. This is not a new kid on the scene. Maybe he's struggling to grapple with his status or how to behave. He must know himself and know his thoughts at this stage. Has Woods ever approached you for advice or thoughts? Have you ever heard what his thinking is?
I've talked to him in the past. I've talked to Tiger in the past. I haven't heard anything from him. I'm not looking to hear anything from him as far as I'm concerned. With this movement, he's irrelevant, and I think that we should just move on. There's nothing there that's going to have any impact. Nothing that he could say would be believable. Nothing that he could do would be creditable. Nothing that he could contribute would be worth very much. And in point of fact, nobody expects anything. So at this late date, who cares? No, I haven't heard anything from him. Not looking to hear anything from him, and I don't know anybody else who is either. He's irrelevant.
And my reaction was, oh.
I thought it was brilliant. I really did.
Pretty damning a Tiger, isn't it?
Yeah. Unsurprising. I think it fits in with what Harry Edwards has probably said previously. I don't know if I heard him quite go that far. And I don't know if him making statements like that has ripples in America. But there is no expectation on Tiger now. He's right in that, he is an irrelevance in this conversation because he's made himself an irrelevance. He doesn't want to have any part of it. And golf is more than happy for him not to have any part of it. I couldn't, from watching some of his press conference last week, and listen, it's never going to come up, I don't think, really in post-round interviews, right or wrong, but there didn't seem any great desire to ask him about it in press conferences as to, is he going to take the knee? Is he going to withdraw from the tournament? I think an expectation that would be made of every other player in his position. But again, are we focusing too much on Tiger? And should we be asking questions of all the players? Again, did anything happen aside from, was it Cameron Champ wearing black and white shoes?
Tony Finau was asked about it in one of his post-round interviews and said a conversation needs to happen. And at least he spoke about it. He was asked about it. I didn't see Tiger being asked about it. I would suspect interviewers rightly suspect he doesn't want to be asked about it, so therefore they don't.
So what do you do in that situation regarding coverage of Tiger? Like, how do you, because he is an irrelevance, and as Harry Edwards said, they're moving on without him. So do we all just forget about Tiger and say, that is not a part of his life, and that's perfectly fine. He's made that decision. So, but we still talk about his greatness because he is the greatest golfer we have ever seen. Should this be a factor in that?
Well, I mean, is the same argument applied to Michael Jordan? Is his legacy as the greatest basketball player of all time tarnished because he pointedly and deliberately didn't say a word about race relations in the United States for the entirety of his career, despite this last year or these last few months being quite vocal?
To be fair to Jordan, like, the conversation wasn't really happening as much across the 90s with any athletes. Like, he refused to endorse the candidate in North Carolina who was going up against some racist.
Sheahan, who's like a notorious racist.
Yeah, so he refused to endorse the Democratic candidate, and he made the quip about Republicans buying sneakers too, which, he hates that has become so entwined with him, and he says that was just a quip and didn't really respect his views. But then, it kind of does.
He never said anything about the Rodney King situation. I take your point, but I mean, it's not as if that America hasn't had race issues intermittently, and I absolutely take Edwards' point about there being 5 waves of it. I mean, he obviously knows a hell of a lot more than I could ever know. But, there was the Rodney King riots in 92, and Jordan was still like the biggest star in the world, not just of basketball.
Yeah.
Not a word. And so, like, Jordan pointedly, and I understand this, like, simply by virtue of the fact that he is a black man, does he have to speak on all these issues,
Sure.
And that in itself speaks to, is there a racist overtone to that as well? However,
yeah, and that's an interesting point, that you make. I agree with that. Like, that is, it's uncomfortable, kind of everyone turning to Tiger and say, well, you should say something. But I mean,
I'm a white middle class man from Ireland. It's like,
of course, what do I know is right? And if he turned around to everybody and said, hang on, what do you all know about it? That'd be a fair point. But, like, we're not talking about some systematic issue here that's very, that difficult to decipher. We're talking about, like, you look at the Blake video, just a guy being gunned down and shot 7 times.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Next week on Dadcast.
Yeah, I think we'd all like to have that idealistic morning of we sit together, we have warm porridge, we all talk about what might happen and our hopes and dreams for the day, but that's not real life.
Dadcast with Cadbury Freddo Treasures. Tuesdays from 3 p.m. on OTB Sports Radio. Tune in on the OTB Sports app.
The all-new OTB Sports app. It's all videos, sports news, live scores, interviews, podcasts, all waiting for you. Search OTB Sports on your app store and download now.
OTB AM.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
All right, 7:59 on this Friday morning. You're very welcome back to OTB AM. Eoin and Adrian with you right the way through until 10 o'clock this morning. If you're just joining us, you've missed a great chat about Tiger Woods from Golf Weekly yesterday. The full chat available now on the OTB Sports app. The attention, though, for the next couple of hours is really going to be on Ireland and the beginning of the Stephen Kenny era last night. A 1-1 draw in Sofia. We're going to have Kenny Cunningham with us. We're going to have Matt Holland with us. We're going to have Nathan Murphy with us. We are, of course, going to be getting into the sports pages and looking ahead to Munster Leinster tonight as well in the company of Alan Quinlan later on. But as I say, it's going to be mostly football for the next couple of hours. You can tweet us at Off The Ball. You can drop us a text as well on our WhatsApp number, which is 0879 180 180. Adrian Barry, how are things?
Things are good. I'm feeling really positive this morning after that last night. The goal sort of saved us at the end, didn't it? But brimful of positivity here, yeah.
Well, let's get straight into this positivity. We're going to get into our winners and losers from last night. If you had to pluck the biggest winner out of the hat from last night, Adrian, who's it going to be?
A joint award, I think, maybe. There's a few contenders for it. Stephen Kenny certainly in the mix for it. But I'm going to give it to 3/4 of it to Aaron Connolly and the remainder to Adam Ida. The pressure on the maybe there's no pressure at all, but the inexperience of the two lads and the roles that they were given last night. What's the biggest cliche about or truism about Irish football at the minute? We can't score goals. I think I saw somebody tweet us yesterday. I could be a million miles wrong about this, and I meant to take a screen grab of it at the time, so apologies if this.
You've totally invented this thing, Adrian, basically.
Somebody who had actually done some research on to suggest that we had 17 different scores over our last 17 goals. Either way, the point being that we can't score goals. Shane Duffy is our by far and away top scorer in the Republic of Ireland squad at the minute with 4, I think.
4.
Yeah, so we don't have players who score goals, and we haven't had for quite some time since Robbie Keane was in his palm. So that's kind of our main issue. And so, no pressure, lads. But certainly looking at them last night, and, I think Connolly particularly, I actually think is a sort of player that if he continues to grow into his role with the Republic of Ireland, whatever that might be, some version of what we saw last night, maybe with a sprinkling of trying to utilise his pace maybe a little bit better. I think that was the one key area that was missing last night. Our determination to play too much football last night almost. In some ways, and we can talk to Kenny and Matt Holland about this over the course of the morning, but were we doing him a disservice almost by not sort of at times trying to mix it up by lobbing one over the top and just let him at it? Because he did show at times himself the stuff that he created himself, that capacity to get around the back by using his pace.
That's the thing. When we talk about playing a front three based on raw pace, and you control the game and control the possession and you pass the ball around so much, sometimes the wild card that is your pace isn't as much of an outlier anymore. And I mean, the greatest instance of Irish pace we've seen in recent years was Shane Long racing towards Manuel Neuer's goal, and obviously that's not going to come along when you're controlling a game. One other big winner from last night, Adrian, of course, is Mick McCarthy. He was calling it all night. He said Ireland need to cross the ball. He has this obsession with crosses. The only person I've ever seen in the history of football who has an adoration for crosses like Mick McCarthy is Louis van Gaal. The two of them, I would listen to a crossing podcast between Louis van Gaal and Mick McCarthy. A clear obsession that developed last night. And where did the Ireland goal come from, Adrian? It came from a cross that came from a corner. So he was right all along. Big win for Mick McCarthy.
And the stat of the night delivered by the current Ireland manager after the game, that the last time we'd scored from such a instance was 2017, Darren Murphy. He's obviously been doing his homework. Jesus, I'm not going to lie to you. I couldn't believe last night. I had to, the way when the game is sort of starting and you're getting yourself settled and you're sort of half listening, and I was like, no. It surely couldn't be. This gift, for a game that we were all tremendously looking forward to either way, in the spirit of everything that was happening last night. Surely not. What was he doing? But it was an incredible outcome for all of us, and maybe troll of the year award for Mick McCarthy last night.
It could have been so much worse, in fairness. If he wanted to win the Troll of the Year award, he absolutely could have gone and taken that last night. I, for one, welcomed the great insights. I think that if you've got the previous manager available to you, you absolutely go ahead and you get him on for that game. So I greatly enjoyed the contributions from him last night. He's a winner. Just very quickly before we get to Kenny, any losers from last night?
I'm going to go with, there are a few contenders for this as well, but I'm going to go with the Irish defensively. Even all down the year zone where we've been bad and the football hasn't been that particularly pretty. Like, the one thing that you could say about Irish football was that we were fairly solid defensively, and it was generally difficult. The odd Denmark here or there, notwithstanding, difficult to score against us, and like that, wasn't the case last night. Like, I would hate us now to get into a position where that goal that we conceded last night was just far too easy, and I'd hate us to become a team that are good to look at, have these exciting forward players, but are conceding sloppy goals. So I think I'm saying the Irish defensively, obviously on the basis that we also you can throw Matt Doherty in there last night. There's no point in saying otherwise. It was disappointing for him, and a lot was expected. So yeah, that's where I'm dishing out that award to.
If we're going to give Mick McCarthy a winner award from last night, though, we got to give Sky Sports in general the loser award. I, for one, applaud the ambition to try and cover 2 games at once, which is essentially what they tried to do last night. But not sure was I feeling the Wales-Finland analysis after watching Ireland against Bulgaria. Not sure about you.
I again could not believe. I was like, when they said, we're joined in studio by James Collins and Phil